And workshop family, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I see Martinson family in here early, so welcome. Appreciate it. So real quick today, well, it's March 26, 2022, and this is episode 88 of the Workshop Podcast. Get our announcements out of the way, and then we are going to talk today about the fact that 2022 is basically 25% over. And what are we going to do from here? All right, so number one, you'll notice I threw the links to my Rumble channel and my Odyssey channel here in the chat. They'll also be in the description as well. So if you are into alternative video platforms and you didn't realize that these live streams, well, at least the after the fact recording is on Rumble and it's also live streamed on Odyssey. You can use those there. All of my content is there. Good morning, Loco. How are you? So yes, if you're looking to support some of the free speech platforms, I am on Rumble and Odyssey. So check those out. Number two, the podcast is growing like crazy. The audio only. It's so exciting. So thank you, number one. And number two, if you use, especially iTunes, I guess it's not iTunes anymore, but Apple Podcasts, if you use Apple Podcasts, do me a favor and leave a review. Scroll to the bottom on the app, look at ratings and reviews for the Workshop Podcast, and leave a beautiful 5-star review or whatever you feel like leaving. But it really helps out boosting the audience, getting it in front of more eyeballs. And if it's something you enjoy, just take a minute. Doesn't cost anything, and I would appreciate it. And number three, we had so much fun last week. I can't promise this will always be a weekly thing, but tomorrow night on the Telegram group, well, number one, we already had the interview episode earlier this week, so it kind of freed up my Sunday evening. So we are going to do a Sunday evening community chat with the Telegram workshop community. So you can log in, you can just listen, you can talk, or you can be seen as well. If you aren't in your pajamas, no, I don't care. You can be in your pajamas if you want, but we're going to do a live video chat. It won't be recorded or broadcasted anywhere, so you have to be part of the Telegram group. And we have a community member that needs some advice, some pushing in a proper direction, stuff like that, and they want some advice. So we're going to toss around some ideas, see what we can come up with. So if you're over there or want to be part of it, come on by and check it out. All right. So like I said, guys, it's kind of crazy to think about this, but today's March 26, which basically means 3 months out of 12 is past for the year. So that means 25% of the year, 1 quarter, is already gone. So that's the bad news. The good news is we still have 75% of the year left to get our goals, to meet our goals, to make sure we get out there and get the shit done for 2022 that we wanted to do. So I figured it would be a good time for me to review how my goal setting has gone, how my goal attaining has gone, ones that I've fallen completely flat on my face. So this will work as an inspiration to me, and hopefully it'll get the creative juices flowing. If you guys are in the chat area and you want to share, let me know the goals you've attained so far, the goals you haven't got yet, the shit you still want to get done in 2022, because we got all kinds of time yet. But again, the clock is moving along and we have exactly moved 3 months through. So, all right. So real quick, I know you guys always kind of like to hear about what I've done. Saturday morning's always a little bit more relaxed. So this week we had a lot of fun getting the dump truck running. I've talked about that a bunch, but the thing is purring like a kitten. And up until last night when I went to bed, we had, I want to say green grass showing, but it's not green. We had yellow, brown grass showing everywhere. So the only place we still had snow, of course, was where it was really in the shade or great big piles. And then I woke up this morning and everything is covered in a white blanket again. So I'll be going out to blow snow later on today, even though it's going to melt in a couple of days. It's just what I do. And we finished. What a big job that was. We did that huge gutting out for the bank. It was an entire basement. We had to remove all the drywall, all the vapor barrier, all the insulation, haul it up out of the stairs, clean up afterwards. And we had to make sure there wasn't even, like, you know, when you haul drywall off the ceiling or off the walls and it leaves those kind of medallions of drywall paper and stuff, that couldn't be there either. Then we had to spray it down with a mold inhibitor. Now, I got to tell you a quick story about this. You guys ever have a job or something you have to do that you're just fretting about or worried about? You're just like, I don't know how well this is going to go. Well, I kind of figured, we'd do okay on the walls, and we did. The walls were great, but I put the ceilings off to the last day because I was honestly just nervous that it was just going to be a pain in the ass. I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, I went in, we started pulling down, and we were done in 45 minutes. Whoever put the ceiling drywall up, thank the good Lord, did not attach it super sturdy. So it came down in big chunks. We didn't have a lot of little pieces to get rid of like we did with the walls. The walls were on there sturdy. So just something, sometimes we worry about things, and quite often the worry ahead of time is never as bad as the worry or the actual job. And once you get going, you're into it, you got to finish, right? And finally, I got the labels for the coffee completely done. They're all approved. All that is left now, I know you guys are like, Tim, stop talking about it and just do it. I'm working on it, I promise. Is just to get the website up. So hopefully this week, definitely before I go away to Nashville, there'll be coffee to be sold online. So where are we going to head into for the show today? You guys have heard me say on so many occasions that a rising tide floats all boats. And if you've never been around somewhere where the tide goes up and down, where I grew up, there was almost 30 feet of drop. On the highest tide days, there was 30 feet of drop of tide between high tide and low tide, basically an 8-hour swing. And there were times that the crew would have to go back and retie the boats because they raised up so high that the tie-off ropes were just like so tight they could wreck something. So there's a lot of power in that. But the interesting thing, of course, is that every one of those boats come up at the same time. And to me, the key that I found this year, because number one, I knew I wasn't going to do a whole lot more work in my content creation. I was creating 5 days a week of content, and that was where it was going to stay. And I knew the key was, my word of the year was invest. And I wanted to be able to invest. Basically, I was already putting in the work. So now it was time to figure out where I could invest that work to get the best return, to help the most people, to grow the channel, to build the community, all of that. Those were the things that I wanted to do. And to me, what I found out this year is collaboration is key, or collaboration is king, or whatever alliteration you want to have there. But for me, the biggest way to grow without needing to do any more than what I already was, because again, we all have a limit of what we're going to do. And for me, that was collaborating. The first one was when Brian Alexovich from the Lots Project came to me and said, hey, do you want to be part of this incredible group called the Fireside Freedom? And, I thought, yeah, this is great. And now Brian Norton, Scramblin' Bojangles, is from Scramblin' University. He's putting together the After Party. It's going to be a spiritual successor, a new type of podcast where we sit around and we talk about a whole bunch of different things, but not your typical preparedness, agorist, anarchist kind of podcast. And it's refreshing. I love it. It's fun. Every time I get off chatting with those boys and ladies, we just I just feel invigorated. So it's fun. So for me, I've learned this year that if I want to grow, and honestly, the biggest area for anyone is to share your content and to collaborate with other people. Because the more places that your content is out there, the more you get eyeballs on. So the other night when I had Nicole on the podcast and we did a live stream, that same live stream went out on her channel as well. Don't be scared. Don't hold on to your content and think, I'm not sharing it with anybody, because you're already putting it out there for free. It's already out there for people to watch and consume. So get it out there, share it with other people. You don't want to talk a ton about the new After Party podcast that I'm going to be part of sometimes. But, the more places you get that out there, the more people are exposed to your content, the more people are exposed to the community, and the more times you're going to find those people that want to grow with you. So that is kind of where my invest word of the year came from. And the big area that I've been heading in for, specific goals and kind of the theme, that word that beats around in my brain all the time when I'm talking about how are things going to get better. So those are a good start. How about specific goals? What have I set this year? How am I doing? And where are we going to end up? So let's start first with one of my you guys know my biggest, hairy, audacious goal that Mike Rowe. I would love to get him on the show, and I'm really hoping that we do. But that wasn't in a specific goal for this year. That was just a best case scenario. But the first one that I'm going to talk about is I set a goal this year to get our YouTube channel up to 10,000 subscribers. Now, I am not on pace for that at all. So something will have to change in order to meet that metric at the end of the year. But you know what? If I don't meet that metric, that's okay, because I've put the work in and things are starting to grow. Now, we're going to talk a little bit further down. A lot of times you have to, whenever you're building something or growing a community or doing any of this, you got to put a lot of work in for a long time before you really start to reap the benefits. And I've made some significant changes to the YouTube platform, the YouTube channel, and I'm starting to see some real growth and some real kind of excitement there. But those subscriber numbers aren't necessarily there. And you know what? That's okay. I would rather have 100 or 1,000 subscribers that love the content and follow than 10,000 that just subscribe because they ran into some random video and they don't mean anything. But as content creators, we always set these goals, and that's what we're shooting toward. Now, the one that I'm really excited about is the podcast. Now, I told you guys that I set a goal this year of having 1,000 listeners per episode by the end of the year. And this was at a point when the show was making maybe 30 to 40 listens per show. And this was when I set these goals. I had just met the Prepper Broadcast Network. I hadn't got into it. I didn't know where things were going to go. So much. You just don't know, but you set these goals because that gives you a mindset to shoot for. It helps you decide what decisions. Yeah, don't be repetitive here, Tim, but it helps you decide what is good, what is okay, and what is the non-PBN episodes are getting around 300 listens across all platforms in the first week. And I had the most recent Thursday that's also on the Prepper Broadcast Network had 850 listens in the first week. So we're getting really close. And the cool thing is, and I brag you guys up all the time because you guys are part of the community, but everything is growing and the podcast is growing at more than 45 degrees. Like it's just shooting straight up in the air. So it's exciting. I love it. I thank you guys for it. It's driving, because you guys know I do this as a passion because I want to build you guys up. It was funny. I had a chat with Scramblin the other day when we were on his podcast, and he asked me how many other content creators are out there because of you, Tim. That's what he asked. And first off, it kind of makes me blush, even though it's hard to tell when you got a beard on. But that's why I do this. But I also don't like to toot my own horn. But there are some out there that are, at least in part, because I encouraged them and I said, grab the bull by the horns and run with it. And that's exciting. I love seeing that. I call it the family tree, the workshop family tree. And even if I play just a tiny part in inspiring other people, it's great. But I also want this to be a business. And it is making some money, and I'm excited about that. And I want it to make more money. And I have lots of ventures, lots of, frying pans in the fire and that kind of stuff. And the more it gets out there, the greater it works. And the podcast is really driving traffic to the website. And that's what I'm looking for. And that's why I'm here being totally transparent about my goals and where I want to be, because I want you guys to build something great as well. It's like James over in the Prepper Broadcast Network. He wants every creator there. He wants every one of them, their podcast, to be making each of them individuals money, because that's what he wants. Again, the rising tide floats all boats. And I want everyone to be successful, because when successful people are around other successful people, it breeds more success. And that's where we want to head. So how about this one? This is one I'm kind of proud of. So we'll talk about it. But I set a goal. So my very first year that I did podcasting, YouTube, that kind of stuff, I was on 2 podcasts for the whole year, Nicole's and Jack's TSP. Last year I was on 5. So I thought, you know what? This year I want to be on a podcast a month. 3 months in, I've appeared on 9 podcasts. I'm working really hard at that. So if there's a goal you want, it's just like, I forget who I was talking to the other day, but they mentioned when they schedule their day, they even schedule time in to spend with their wife. And then some people might be like, huh, well, that doesn't sound like real love if you're putting your wife on your schedule and you have to schedule time with her. But that's exactly what you have to do. You want to get things in. So if you want to get your message out there, if you want to grow, and what I found is you just reach out to people, reach out to all size podcasts, all size communities. You never know what's going to come up. You know, one of the fun ones I had was a Liberty Late Night. We just got chatting about movies on Float one day. He said how much he liked my post. And I said, hey, I think we should do something. And I'm going to have them on my show too. And don't forget to reciprocate. If somebody has you on their show, have them on your show. And just get your message out there, because the more people that see you, the more people that will click, you know, that'll say, oh, I like this fool from Canada that, you know, is 41 years old and acts like an idiot and whatever, right? They just click with you. Some people like the fact that I like to talk about movies and preparedness and a whole bunch of weird stuff. And then other people are like, he's not my cup of tea. But the more people you get out there, the more that are going to be attracted to it. As far as another goal I set this year, I wanted to get back into live speaking. I used to do that quite a bit back in my college days. It was fun. I enjoyed it. The only one I knew about at that time was the LFTN appearance. So I'm going to be in Nashville again, the end of April, and I'm going to be teaching a course on doing a 1-hour presentation on entrepreneurship. And I'm stoked about that. I've been working on it for a while now, but I had nothing else in the fire at the time. But I set the goals and I did it. So now I'm going to, and I don't know if I'm going to be speaking there yet, but I'm attempting to get on as a speaker there, because I'd love to share, you know, some stuff about preparedness. But I'm going to prepper camp in September in North Carolina. That's a really big deal. So that's a possibility. And then I just had another possibility just kind of jump up out of the blue the other day. You just never, ever know. So here's a couple other ones. This one here, I thought this one was kind of cool. But I really, and it's important, I really wanted to make in-person Western Canada connections. It's so easy. You know, we all relate to the people, our imaginary internet friends. You know, we all have these, you know, the people that we talk to, like my workshop community or whoever you happen to be involved with. And we have so much in common that it's easy to chat and carry on and be friends with. But in real life, it can be tough. And something, again, I had Nicole on the other day and she kicked my butt on this one, but she said, hey, you know, focus on the things that you have in common. Don't focus on all the things that you don't have in common. And that is the key to making in-person relationships. It seems like the last few years we've been kind of, oh, well, you know, we won't, I don't want to talk to anybody who thinks slightly different from me at all. And that's no good. You don't want that, right? So for me, you know, the very first one was having Chris Dixon come up here, and he's just an awesome dude. He's a huge part of this workshop community, and he is an up and coming content creator himself. He makes some really cool kind of hacks and tip videos, and he's just all around handy, does blacksmithing and forging and the whole works. So I will try to remember to put his link up there, but if not, he's in and out of the chat all the time, and he's just a great all around guy. And he's the very first in person from our communities that I've met. You know, the Martinson family and Greg Arcade are from Manitoba, so that's not that far away. I'd love to meet some of you guys in person someday. That would be great. And I've been intentionally trying to be active on some of the online Alberta communities, especially the Telegram group, because that is where you meet people in real life. It's where you come up, hey, Snail Creek Homestead, how are you? It's just nice to have everybody in here this morning. Yeah, it's just so trying to meet in-person people that are slightly like-minded, or at least in that area, is good. And one of my long-term goals, and I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I plan on having an in-person Western Canada workshop, probably a weekend or something in my area for summer of 2023. So that's another reason why I'm trying to get to all these events, is to learn from everybody. And, you know, we had Nicole on the other night and she was talking about it. And I want to have a place where we can get together. And, you know, if some of our US people who are close to the border want to come across, great, that'll be awesome. But it'll just be nice for us to have a time to get together and make in-person, like-minded connections. I'm rather excited about that. So yeah, Another quick one. This one was weird, but like I said, the clock is ticking. The calendar pages are flipping. Use whatever kind of illustration you want to talk about, but we are 25% through the year. And I sat down the other day and started looking back on my goals. I thought, this is something I think that other people could benefit from. So we'll chat about it and we'll see where we end up. But another thing was my Toolman Tim and my All Seasons Maintenance. That's my handyman page. My Facebook page they became one, and it was just a mess. So I had to separate those. It was kind of painful. I created a Toolman Tim Facebook page, left the All Seasons Maintenance there. I really haven't done a lot with the All Seasons because it's just there to show my work and stuff. But it's worked. The Toolman Tim site has grown very slow on Facebook, but the people that are there, they interact. And Martinson Family says, we'll let you know when we find land and stay networked for the future. Absolutely. That'll be great. And now here's another one. So I set a goal. Hey, Chris Dixon, how are you, my friend? We were just talking about you. His ears must have been burning. But yeah, he's out getting shit done and he'll catch it later. I love it. That's what I tell everybody. If you are too busy to get in here, then I've succeeded, or you've succeeded, because I don't do anything. I just verbally kick you in the butt. You are the guy. You guys are the ones that have to choose to get out there and get and knock your goals out of the park. So if you're too busy getting your goals done, hey, Corey, how are you? Then I am absolutely excited for you, because that's what I want. Speaking of Brian earlier, there's Mrs. Brian, Corey Alexovich as well. And every so often I still stumble over their last name, and I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, okay. Another one that was super exciting was I discovered I loved property management. And it is a way for me to have a very, very flexible schedule, but to have income that pays the bills and is fairly structured and regular. And I've been very excited about it. And last year in the summer, we picked up those 11 units, and then we picked up some more. The bank properties have come up. But when I set this goal of kind of doubling my property management, I really didn't know how the hell I was going to do that. I didn't have a plan. But soon after, I got a call from another bank company out of Ontario. I started managing a property for them. And then most recently, right out of the blue, I picked up this new 12 unit, and now I'm at the point where my property management can pay more than pay my bills. So guys, set goals, get your name out there, get known. If you want to build something in the entrepreneurial realm, do it. Thank you. Corey says I pronounced it right. Yeah, get yourself out there, set goals. And again, there's so many, we'll talk about this a little bit, but it takes time. And again, we talk about the must be nice people, because they look at the end results and they're like, oh yeah, well, it worked out for Tim. Well, yeah, it did. But this kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. The All Seasons Maintenance is going to be 5 years old next month. And there was more than once that I wanted to wrap it up, shut it down, go back working for the man, but I stuck with it. And here we are. So you have to set measurable goals and keep going. So first off, those were kind of my measurable goals. Those are very specific, like, hey, I want to have 1,000 listeners to the podcast. And those are great. But also, there should be some personal improvement goals or some less tangible goals. And I wanted to talk about this process a little bit, because I haven't really talked about it a lot. And hopefully it gives you guys maybe some insight into, I don't know, how personal improvement, that kind of stuff. So the 3 personal improvement goals for my content creation that I set this year, and they're harder to measure, so bear with me, but it was becoming a better interviewer, becoming a better podcaster, and becoming a better product reviewer. Now, those you're like, oh, okay, well, what does better mean, right? Well, again, better means improvement. So what did I do? Where did I go with this? So let's talk a little bit about it, and hopefully you guys maybe get a little inspired. But becoming a better interviewer, I love to talk to people. I love to get people's stories out of there. And honestly, I'd probably do 2 or 3 interviews a week if I could, because I feel more recharged after chatting with someone else. And everybody, I don't care how boring of a life you've lived, everyone has an exciting, interesting story if you can get them to tell it. So where did I start? Well, this year, I thought about the people that I like to listen to when they're interviewing people. And I just really dove into following some of them. So the first one, of course, is Joe Rogan. I love his long form content. I think I was made for AM radio because I would love to just do talk radio all day long. Well, anyway, but just listening, the stuff that's available on YouTube, I went back and started listening to Joe's openings because that's what I really liked about him, is he always had some kind of story. And I went back and probably watched 30 or 40 of his openings and just paid attention. And he always had something interesting. He always had a way to relate it. But he is always about getting people to start talking and then just kind of sliding out of the way. But it's always a hook. He always has something interesting when he starts. And just by listening to people like that through osmosis, you start getting a little better. But if you're intentional about it, you can kind of supercharge that a little bit. Now, another one, and you guys may have heard me talk about him before, or you might not, but his name is Sean Evans from Hot Ones. So if you've ever watched the YouTube channel Hot Ones, where he gets celebrities on and they eat hot wings and they get progressively hotter and hotter, he does incredible interviews. And his hook, every time I listen to one of his interviews, what I love about it is the people always come away and they say, how did you know that? I never told anybody that before. How did you find that out? And it's like this hook, and it gets people to let their guard down, and it gets them to lighten up, and it gets them talking, And for me, that hook has been, to an extent, asking people what their first job was, because of course we're the workshop. So we talk about getting shit done. So it fits within the theme, but people get excited. They love talking about where they came from. And a lot of times, when I had James on from PBN, he's like, nobody's ever asked me that before. And he talked about working in as a line cook or in a kitchen and that kind of stuff. And I just love it. You always get a little insight, and it let people let their guard down. They get talking. So yeah. And then the third one, of course, and I'm sure this will be no surprise to you at all, but is Mike Rowe. And if you listen to his podcast, I love it. I get addicted because he can have the most interesting or the most normal type person on there, and he drags a story out of them like there's no tomorrow. He had a lady he brought on one time. I can't remember her name right now. Just listen to it. She had been in Scientology, and it wasn't, she had a really rough go at it. And he told her story, and I was enthralled. And then he told another story. No, sorry, back up. He didn't tell their story. He had them on. He got them talking and let them tell their story. And, he interjects once in a while, but he doesn't do a lot of talking when it comes to interview times. He lets the other people do the chatting, and he brings out stories that are incredible. And the other one was a guy he just met at the bar one day. Turned out this gentleman used to be the personal Secret Service agent for Jackie Kennedy Onassis. And what an incredible story that was. But he always finds a way to just get out of the way. He realizes he's not the focus of the story. The storyteller should be the focus. And so I've been focusing on that kind of stuff. And I hope this is interesting to some of you, because this is kind of my process for getting better. So because it's hard. You're like, how do you, there's no numbers on putting, how are you becoming a better interviewer? But, if the show's growing, then hopefully I'm succeeding at that. And these are the ways that you can, how about becoming a better podcaster? Now that you're like, well, Tim, you interview people. How do you become a better podcaster? Well, you become a better interviewer. Partially, yes, that is correct. But for me, and this is uncomfortable, and I don't do it as often as I should, but go back and listen to yourself. So if you want to become a better speaker, this is something we did in college when I was doing my public speaking days. We used to have a VHS camcorder that I know, right? I'm old. Or maybe it was mini DV. I can't remember. It didn't matter. But we would record ourselves doing our speeches in class, and then we'd transfer it to VHS, and then we'd have to watch it a bunch of times. And we'd look at our weird mannerisms, and we'd try to eliminate those. But going back and listening to yourself on a podcast or whatever, it's not vain. It's not, self-centering. Well, kind of, but you're going back to listen with ear. Okay. How do you put this? You're going back to listen with a listener's ears at this point, because when I'm talking, I don't always catch these weird things that I do. So if you go back and listen, you can figure out, okay, this is what I'm doing. So the big thing when it comes to public speaking, becoming a better podcaster, better on radio, eliminating those filler words. And one thing that you need to realize, or what I needed to realize, is a pause is better than a verbal placeholder. And those verbal placeholders are like, probably, whatever. There's those words that you just put in there simply because you're uncomfortable and your brain hasn't quite caught up yet. But I'm telling you, a pause is way more effective. And it gives you time to breathe. It gives you time for your audience to listen. It gives your brain time to download stuff, all of that. So give yourself some time and go back and listen. Now, the other thing that I've had to do, and I've told myself this a bunch of times, is you need to slow down, Tim, and let your content breathe. I get so excited. I get on here and I get talking. And sometimes I catch myself and I start going a mile a minute. The old maritime comes out in me and I want to share. But sometimes you just need to slow down and let it breathe. And what I found is that I end up having more notes at the end of my show than I had time to deal with. But I did a better job covering it because, again, I slowed down, I let it breathe. And that's part of becoming a better podcaster, is becoming a better speaker and becoming a better communicator. There's a good article. I will try to remember to post that as well. It was 10 steps to removing filler words from your conversations and discussions and public speaking. So if you want to, and then again, if you want to get better at this kind of stuff, take a course. What is Toastmasters? That's what it's called. Get involved in a Toastmasters club, or just start live streaming, because then you have no choice. You can't edit out the ums and ahs and likes and and that, any of those words. So yeah, get into it. Just start practicing and then listen back and see what happens. Now, this next one was probably what would be the most uncomfortable of all of them, and that was to become a better reviewer. Because we all want to think that we are the absolute best at what we do. Every man thinks he's the best driver in the world, even though there's a good chance he isn't. And I'd been, the second thing I did as a YouTuber was reviewing products. And I love to talk about tools. And I figured everyone else loved to listen to me talk about tools. And I also like to talk, as everybody knows. So I want to share with you guys, in my reviews, the biggest complaint from listeners that I ever got, and it was fairly constant, was, could you just shut the hell up and talk about the tools? Because I like to talk. I just would, I had notes and then I would ramble on. And what ended up happening was, my intros were long. I would talk for a while, tell a story. Then I would go to my intro, and then I would go into my self-promotion, and then I would go into the product. And what ended up happening was that, Loco there, Mike from the Philippines, says he used to be active in Toastmasters. I'm telling you, it will make you feel better. It just gives you some, I'm going to digress here for a quick second, but it gives you, that boost, that adrenaline, and it gives you confidence. And I was really proud of Charlotte the other day. She's babysitting today, so she's not in here. But she said, hey, Dad, the teacher asked for someone to get up and tell their story in class, and I was the only one who did it because I knew you told me that public speaking was a good skill to have. So I was proud of her, So anyway, back to being a better reviewer. And that was getting rid of all this fluff. So I had to look at my videos very critically, and I made a bunch of changes this year on becoming a better reviewer. And some of them were painful. And the first one was that I changed up my intro. So there's no longer a 2 or 3 minute chat before the video intro. Now it's like a 1 or 2 sentence intro that gets right to the point. I watched some of the better reviewers out there. I followed them and I said, okay, what are they doing? And they literally get on, and in the first 2 sentences, they tell you what they're going to talk about today. And then you know what they do? They come back and they might have a quick second of promotion, but after that, boom, they're right into exactly what they told you to do. So, my average review videos were like 12 to 13 minutes. They've now gotten down to 6 to 7 minutes. And that was hard because you guys know I like to talk. That's why I do podcasts, and some people like listening to me. So that was one. I had to make them shorter. I had to make the intro snappier. I had to eliminate all of my self-promotion and yammering on. I moved that to the end a little bit. I moved the video launch time from midnight to 3 p.m. because that's what the stats said were very important. And another thing is I eliminated from 2 videos a week to just 1 now. And part of being better at something sometimes means doing less of that, So that's what I ended up doing. I'm doing one video every week, and I'm focusing on the things that are important. And those are the things that trend the best and the things that people obviously came to listen to me talk about. And that's generators and that's DeWalt gear. Every time I do those videos, and you know what? I'm starting to see the growth that I'm looking for there. Because this is a business. I do the review videos to share my info with people, but I also do the review videos so that people will trust my opinion and possibly buy that product. And if they do, I get a little bit of income from somebody watching the videos. The more people, hey, Amy, how are you? Morning. The more people that watch my videos, I get a little bit of revenue from that. And the more people that end up buying the products that I recommend, I get a little bit of money from that. So of course, the more eyeballs that get on the review videos, the better they are. But it was painful. I had to look long and hard and say, okay, do I want to keep making the way I'm making them and be okay at it? Or do I want to change things and start growing with it? And I'm starting to see better, by doing one video a week, my content numbers have not gone down at all, but they're trending higher. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited, but it wasn't easy. It was a painful change. So sometimes we have to look at things and be honest. Now other times, if I'd have just got that comment once, like, hey, Tim, just shut up and get to the point, I probably would have looked at them, and I'd go check out their username on YouTube and I'd be like, oh yeah, you've never made a video, piss off, right? But when you start seeing that trend over and over and over again, you got to realize, okay, I either need to make a change or be happy with where I am. And my review end of things is a big portion of my online content creation income, and I wanted it to be better. So I had to do the painful things, and I had to cut my arm off, or whatever you want to call it, and change it up, and it's working. So sometimes we have to, but then sometimes you can change things up and it doesn't work, and that's okay too. Totally fine with that. But you have to try something, because what do they say? The definition of insanity is trying the same thing and expecting different results. The only way to get different results is to try something different. So yeah, where do we go from here, guys? Like, first off, I want you guys, I didn't want this to come across as like some kind of bragging fest or anything like that. I wanted to share with you my journey this year so far and how I have kind of worked through it. The mental struggles of it, like, change isn't easy, and it's easy to talk about this 3 months in, but this is the kind of shit you have to do day in and day out to get focused on what your end goals are. And it's not always easy. Mike brought up here, he said, planned outline talks and speeches versus impromptu live can be challenging, especially when the enthusiasm takes over and questions start popping in. 100%. That is tough. And I've had that, again, on my end, I've had to start forcing to leave the questions to the end, because otherwise your content can be all over the place. But yes, in all my public speaking, and when we do this here, today, I have 2.5 pages of notes. And what that does is, it's all bullet points, but it allows me to focus strictly on keeping a good structure. And then I can talk from there. But if I don't, I could be all over the place and it won't be nearly as enjoyable. Some of the impromptu ones are great, like the one we're going to do, the after party. Those are fun, but that's a different story. If I tried to do this off the cuff without any preparation, again, it would be painful. It would probably be 5 hours and I wouldn't talk about anything. I've been told by a few people that I pack more into my 1 hour live streams than some people pack into 3 or 4 hour live streams. Not a slam, just the fact that I put the work in and have a good outline before I start. So yeah, like I said, this year, invest was my word of the year. And that meant to me that I wasn't going to do any more work. That's not how I mean it, but I was going to put out basically 5 pieces of content a week, and I needed to figure out where that was going to go. And so at this point, it's 1 review video, it's 3 workshop podcast live streams, and then 1 collaboration podcast, and it's working great. I love it, but it took a little while to get myself into, feeling that success again. And let's be honest here. I want to share one of my big struggles. I talked about it with Brian Alexovich there. I talked about it with Nicole the other night. When you start doing, and you're doing on a regular basis, and you're doing the little things every day that will bring long-term success, 2 things. If you haven't seen the long-term success yet, it can be a little discouraging. But number two, once you fit all of those into your regular schedule, it's very addicting to want to add more. Or you look at it and you're like, well, what more can I do? You automatically feel like, okay, I feel like I'm not doing anything anymore because I'm not doing anything new. I'm just doing the same. And that's kind of one of my insecurities there. It's like, oh, I got to do more, but you don't. You just need to trust the process, that you are putting in the work to find the returns on your goals, and you will get there. Don't burn yourself out, because if you keep trying to add on simply because you feel like you should be doing more, it's going to end up bugging you that way. Yeah. So, hey, renovations and repairs. I like when you come in here. Always has some great insights for us. Try to keep videos below 6 minutes or over 8 minutes. You get another ad placement for videos over 8 minutes. That's good to know. I never looked. That's great. I never looked into that, because that's kind of it seems like my sweet spot. So if I, slide in maybe just around 8 minutes, might be able to get a little extra revenue out of the videos. Thank you. See, we all learn from one another, and it's important to do that, right? So guys, what was anybody, not everybody did a word of the year, but what was your word of the year? What's your theme of the year? What is your goal? Where do you want to head this year? I want to hear about it, because I don't want to talk about myself completely, but we all have to. If we don't set goals and we don't have somewhere, what do they say, that if you don't have a destination in mind, you'll get to the right place, or in this case, the wrong place every time. So we need to take time and figure out what it is we want to do. Are you guys out there looking to build a business? Because I would love to hear about it. Are you looking, like Chris Dixon seems to be ramping up his content creation? I'm excited about that. I'm going to do everything I can to help build him up. So are you looking to build a content creation? Because that is one of those things. It's fun, but it is a slog. I saw Amy in here earlier, and we talked about that. It's this incredible, it feels like a weight on your shoulders, because that next deadline is always just sliding up behind you. And if you embrace it and get a good system going, the stress won't be there nearly as much, but it is always there. So remember that. I seen there's one, the Dead Meat YouTube channel. He just took a big hiatus because he'd been doing this for a lot of years, found a lot of success, but got burned out simply because he felt like he was creating content simply to create content. And I hope I never get to that point. But if you're looking to do it, remember, there are times when it's going to feel like a slog, and it's okay. Now, the good news is, if you've been sitting on your thumbs and dicking around for the last 3 months and haven't been very successful with your goals, still got 9 months left in 2022. But, none of us know whether we're going to, I don't know, step out in front of a train tomorrow. Hopefully we don't do that. But you don't want to leave anything on the table. Get out there, get off your ass, start getting things done. And hopefully this works like a verbal kick to the neck or kick to the throat. I don't know. But put your stuff on paper. If you're shooting for something, make it real. Tell other people about it. And then put it down on paper and say, okay, what do I need to do? So if my goal, again, is to, I don't know, build a cleaning business this year. So say you want to make an extra $1,000 a month by doing janitorial work or house cleaning or whatever it happens to be, and you haven't started yet. Well, that's okay. The first thing you need to do is advertise, get your name out there, and you might pick up one job, or better yet, you might start contacting businesses, cold calling businesses and saying, hey, just wondering, do you have a janitorial contract, or are you looking for new people to do your work? Are you maybe not happy, or is possibly the janitorial contract coming up for tender? And I want to tell you, if you've never done a tender for janitorial work before, it might be a little intimidating the first time, depending on where it is or what it is. But you know what? Even if you fall completely flat on your face the first time doing one, you're going to learn from it. So set yourself a goal. It might be, like I said, $1,000 a month. Well, the first month, you maybe make $100 in that month doing house cleaning, whatever. You find yourself a job. Now, if that's recurring income, you've now made 10% in that first month. And you don't have to go out and find $200 worth of income the next month. You just need to repeat that same $100 each month for 10 months. So you could actually, in 12 months, you could actually have 2 months where you don't grow your income at all and still hit your $1,000 goal. Now here's the other cool thing. Once you've reached that goal at the end of the year, The next year, that's $1,000 in January, February, March, April. That's an extra $12,000 a year. It's about half that. I think it'll work out to about $6,000 the first year if you work it up. But you get that increase, that gradual increase, and it's not that hard. You just have to find one job, recurring job worth $100 a month, once a month, to reach that $10,000, $12,000 a month, a year in extra income. And what could you do with that? Could you turn that into another business? Could you buy a property rental? I don't know. Could you buy an RV and set it up and do a hip camp? Who knows? I don't know. But just let your mind go wild. So what could you do with an extra $12,000? And remember, an extra $12,000 in 1 year is, what would it be? An extra $96,000. So almost an extra $100,000 in 8 years. What could you do with that? You could probably pay off your house, or at least start to pay off your home, whatever it happens to be. Or, you know what? If you want to double that again next year, you could be making $24,000 in income. Or if you want to triple it, maybe you're getting close to being able to quit working for the man, and you can have these contracts and you can have flexibility in your schedule. So remember, we're only 3 months into 2022. So I didn't want this to be a slap to the back of the head, but also remember, those pages keep flipping. Every morning you wake up, there's one more day less left in 2022. So the shit you wanted to get done, get the hell out there and get that shit done. But don't burn yourself out. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you do Jessica Dixie Mills, if you follow her, she's hiked every trail there is basically in North America. And I bet you if you ask her, how does she hike the Appalachian Trail? I bet it's one foot in front of the other, because that's how every single journey starts. And it's important. So guys, that's where I'm at today. Those are where I've made the advancements in my goals. And those are the goals that maybe I'm not on track to hit yet, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I'm committed for the year that I'm going to see the results that I expect. And we're going to get there. And there's always things that jump out at you and you're like, wow, this is a great opportunity. And having those goals will allow you to decide if that's what I want to do. Anyway, guys, that's it for me this week. I hope you appreciated it. I tell you all the time, you guys can do great things. And if you're thinking about it, just do it. If I don't know, if you got that itch in the back of your brain and you're motivated to get out there and build something great, or you just want to try it, friggin' just do it, man. Just get out there, or woman, whatever, get out there and try it. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to invest a little bit of time and it's not going to work the way you wanted it to. So it is just exactly that, you can do it. If you need permission, I tell you, but also ask your wife or your husband, because it's also absolutely important, So yeah, thank you, Martinson family, for dropping in. We had a great crew this morning. Remember, from here, you guys can do great things. And tomorrow night, there's no live stream because we've had 3 this week already. I already had an incredible interview for gasifiers, which was great. But we are going to do a live community chat in the Telegram group, 7 o'clock Mountain Time tomorrow night. And today, I am going to have a great day with my family. We're going to go to the Fireside Grill that has the most incredible hamburgers, best restaurants around. It's a half hour out of town. And then we're going to go see the new Batman movie as a family, and it's going to be fun. But before that, I'm going to go blow some snow. So guys, this is your weekend. Get shit done. I tell you, thanks for hanging out with me here. I always appreciate it. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.